things that we're struggling with because you're going to have to do them for today's lesson. Um, yeah, that's the title. Yeah, but before we complete the square, I need to go over a couple of things with you. So, not Friday. When's the last time I was up here? Monday. Monday, I talked about finding a. I don't know, somebody's classwork. I talked to you about finding that good C that made it a perfect square trinomial, right? And I'm talking about. Are y'all remembering? So if I had something like what would go in the blank to make it square dance? Oh, that. Close. Close. 16. Right? Squared, right. All right, so that's okay. You need me to wait just a second? We did. I'm just reviewing. I'm reviewing. All right, Gracie, if you'll go back to your seat, please. Oh, what? Yes. I'm going to go over a little bit of that. Yeah. It says 8/23 CTS on it. It's under like the date of yesterday initially. Do y'all remember this? Yeah. Remember, you know what I'm talking about. Okay. Here's the thing that I really want to stress today because I don't know we're really struggling with this for some reason, even glancing at the classwork. So let me just take just a second and go over this really quickly. If I have something like, and I'm just going to set it equal to 0 to start with, something like this was on your classwork yesterday, and I need to solve that, right? How many x's do you see in that equation? 1, right? Wait, sorry. No, that's okay. I only see x written one time, right? That tells me I can SAD map my way out of it. Okay? Now, what do I mean by SAD mapping my way out of it? Backwards PEMDAS. Parentheses are absolutely last. So what do I do first to get x by itself? Subtract 1. When I subtract 1, I get negative 1 equals 2. X plus 2 squared. Now what? Divide by 2. So negative 1/2 square root. I got to keep going until x is completely by itself. Square root. Now I've encountered some problems, yes? Multiple problems, in fact. What's the first thing, bless you, what's the first thing you see that's wrong? Or that's wrong? The fraction and the negative. Both of those are issues, yes? All right, so let's take care of one at a time. What do I do about this negative? Put an I out there, right? So I'm going to say I times the square root of 1 over 2. I'm also going to throw a plus or minus because we know it's plus or minus because I'm solving, right? What else is wrong? What's wrong with having the square root of 1/2? Why? Why can I not have this? The bottom can't have a radical, right? That's why we can't have the i's down there either. How do I get rid of it down in the bottom? Close, by square root of 2, right? Top and bottom. Square root of 4, which is, okay, so my bottom denominator would be 2. What's the top? 2. 1 times 2, right? Right. So now this becomes, I've got this I in front, right? This is plus or minus I times the square root of 2 over 2. I still got x plus 2. I'm still not done. All I did was work with that now just minus the 2. And I always say if you can't do it, write it. I can't subtract 2 from that, so I'm just going to say minus 2, because I'm minusing 2 on both sides, right? Minus 2 plus or minus I times the square root of 2 over 2, or square root of 2 over 2I equals x. No, because whenever you start adding and subtracting the fractions, you have to go through and get like denominators, and then you have to combine just the numerators, and you go through that way. So yeah. It doesn't have to be. You could have just done plus or minus I times square root of 2 over 2 minus 2, but it's just prettier to put the plus or minus in the middle than it is anything else. Did you have a question, Liz? I have your question too. So about like whenever I was in the green, how did I know to square root it at that point? Because if you go back to like your SAD map, the very last thing is what sits inside parentheses. So you have to handle everything outside the parentheses first. So I had to take care of the exponent before I could work inside here. So as far away from x as you can get, and then work your way in. Other questions about that one? Shall we do another? Let's see. This also is from your homework. And you'll see why this is important in just a minute. You try this one and then we'll do it together. Add the 2 on both sides. So add the 2, add the 2. So now I got 2 equals 2 times x plus 1 squared. What now? Divide by 2. Now, several of you on the quiz, when you got to this point, there was one question that this was a 4 in front, and you square rooted both sides, and then you took the square root of 4. That's okay, too. This 2 is not a perfect square, so I'm going to go ahead and just do this. You need to divide by that number that's in front there. All right, so 2 divided by 2 is, what shall I do now? Square root. That's exactly right. When I square root, I don't have any issues here. That's nice. What's the square root of 1? Or 1 or negative 1, plus or minus 1, right? Right? That's where my 2 answers are coming in. Remember when we factored and solved? We always got those 2 answers. This is where the 2 answers are coming in because I got a plus or a minus. So now whenever I subtract 1, remember I said if you can't do it, write it? I can do this one though, right? What's negative 1 plus 1? 0. There's one solution. What's negative 1 minus 1? Negative 2. That's the other solution. Whenever you can do it, write them out. If you can't do it like the one we did before, those aren't like terms. Like we're not going to combine those, so you just leave it written that way. But for this one, since they're both combinable like that, we combine it. Do you feel a little bit better about that? Okay, so if you feel good about that, and you feel good about the forcing the perfect square, making it square dance, you're going to be A-okay with what we do today. Okay? Yeah. Yes, when you can, you have to do it separate. If you have a whole, if you get a whole number here, once you take the square root, you need to separate them. And we'll practice more with that when we get the quadratic formula tomorrow. Another one like this. Yeah. So there, we're going to have a lot of these where it's going to do this. And that, let's just take this off for right now. Solve that for x. Yeah. It's been a long unit. It's been a really long unit. What'd you do first? Add 4. Now what? Square root. That's exactly right. What's the square root of 4? Or plus or minus 2 plus 3. Add the 3. So if I add 3, I end up with 3 plus or minus 2 equals x. And those are whole numbers that I can split up, right? So x is 3 plus 2, which is 5. Or x could be, that's why it's plus or minus 3 minus 2, which is 1. Yeah. You didn't take the square root of 4. You just did 4 plus 3. Yeah. All right. Here we go. Somebody said Is that you, Miles? It's not It's going to be good. It's going to be good. We're doing the new stuff now. Yeet. All right, before I start completing the square, let me show you a square that is already complete and how we're going to solve it, because I think that'll help you to start out with. If I have something, I guess y'all want a title for your notes, huh? It's okay. You're going to be A-okay. This problem is a great problem because it is already square dancing the way it sits. Okay, on one side of it is already a perfect square trinomial. You recognize that. Okay? The square has been completed, is what we say, right? So if it's a perfect square trinomial, the square has already been. I don't have to complete it; it's completed. I don't have to add another c in here because the c is a good c, right? What makes that a good c? It's a, there you go. That's exactly right. It's a perfect square. If I do the square root in the ends, multiply it and double, I get what's in the middle. It's a good C. At this point, I can go ahead and factor it, right? I'm ignoring that 4 for right now. How would the left side factor? X plus 7 squared. If you were solving this for x, this looks just like the problems we were just doing, doesn't it? Yeah, right? How would you solve that? Square root. What's the square root of 4? Plus or minus 2. And then subtract the 7, right? Negative 7 plus 2, which is You had to subtract it from both sides. Okay, so there are my two answers. Do you see why that set itself up perfectly to factor and solve that way? Now, every other factoring problem we have done, we have said it has to equal 0 first, and then I factor it, and then I solve it, right? This one didn't start out equaling 0 because this is a completely square problem, so it's a little bit different. Now, unfortunately for y'all, it's not going to start out looking like that. We're going to have to make it look like that. So let me show you what I'm talking about. Y'all got that? You what? Oh, we're going to do a lot. You will. Just give it a second. Don't be nervous. Don't be nervous. I think the ones that aren't are easier because it's in your control room. I'll show you. You can do it either place. You could still, no, it wouldn't be wrong if it's factorable. And this one would be factorable. Most complete the squares are not factorable, and you'll go to try to factor it, and you won't be able to do it. All right. Let me show you one that's not already set up for you. And let's say I asked you, let me make sure I'm not lying first. What times what is 56? 7 times 8? 7 plus 8 is 57. Okay. If you went to factor this, it won't factor, right? It already equals 0. So what are my other options for solving a quadratic that's not factor? All right. We go in, but I want you to rewind back for just a second. Remember, this whole unit is all about solving quadratics, right? Everything we've done has been all about solving quadratics. So tell me ways. Okay, so that's graphing the quadratic. Why would we graph? How would that help us to find the answer? Would it? Are you sure? You find the x-intercept. You're exactly right. That's one way to do it. It's a little bit messy, right? What if I don't have a calculator? That sucks, right? So, what's another way we've talked about solving a quadratic? We've talked about solve by graphing, factor and solve, right? And then if x is only in there one time, we haven't learned that yet, but we will. It's coming. If I only see x written one time, I can back up and back my way out of it with StatMap, right? Yeah. We are. We are. That's what we're going to do. So what we're going to do instead is we're going to force this to be factorable, okay? We're going to look at this and go, you know what? That is keeping it from being factorable. I'm going to move it. I'm going to get it out of the way, and I'm going to forget it for right now. How in an equation do I get it out of the way? Subtract it. I'm going to subtract it, and I'm going to throw it over here, and I am going to ignore it for right now. But when I do, I'm going to leave a blank place to put that good C that I'm going to find that's going to make it factorable. And because it's an equation and I have to stay balanced, right? If I do something to one side, I'm going to have to come over here and do it also. Yep. Both sides. I'm not sure if you want to complete this, but you may have. All right, so tell me what number makes that square dance on the left side? 81, right? Because I want to take half of the middle, divide it by 2, and square it, and that's what I'm putting in these two blanks. So half of 18 is squared is, so it's going to go here, and it's going to go here, because I got to keep, if I give this side 81, this side's going to be mad if I don't give it 81 too, right? Every single time. Every single time. Yep. Well, I'll tell you complete the square. Yeah. Can you add, why are you adding 25 to this? Oh, yes, you can. You can. I don't know. All right, so look. Yeah. Not 25, Lane. Not 25. You can, are you saying could you just put 25 over here and not do that? Yes, I'm sorry. Yes, yes. That's what I thought you said, and then I was like, wait, wait, okay, yeah. That's fine. That's fine. Yes, you're always adding it because what happens when you square a number? It's always positive, right? So it's always going to be added there. That's a good question there. And the rule is that second sign has to be plus. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. All right, guys. All right, factor the left side now. What does it look like when you factor it? The first sign. It's the square root of the first sign, and the square root of the last. It follows that first sign always. What now? Square root. What's the, now this is just like the ones we were doing, right? Plus or minus 5. Now what? Add 9 to both sides. So I have 9 plus or minus 5. Give me the two solutions here. 9 plus 5 is 14. 9 minus 5 is 4. It's going to get sticky. All right, now that I've shown you the concept, let me give you a set of rules to do it by, and let me tell you what happens when certain scenarios occur, what we have to do, okay? Because they're not all this easy, unfortunately. But the concept's the same for all of them, all right? All right, when you complete the square, rule number 1, never complete the square with a leading coefficient. If there's a number in front of the equation, and I'm going to say, we'll say get rid of it first. Can I what? Yeah, I'm going to do it right below here. Let's say I have, leading coefficient. My first rule before I ever complete the square is making sure there's not a leading coefficient there in front. What's a leading coefficient? It's the number that leaves the equation, the one that switched to the square term. Okay? So here I do have a leading coefficient, right? There's a 2 out there. I cannot complete the square with a 2. 2 is not a perfect square, and 2 is never going to square it, right? I need to get rid of it. So how do I get rid of a number that's in front? I'm going to divide both sides by 2, and by both sides, what I'm really doing, I'm just dividing everything by 2. And when I say everything, I mean everything. If you take out a leading coefficient, take it out of everything. And when it's gone, it's gone. Okay? As long as you take it away from everybody, it's gone. So it's gone here, right? So I have x squared. What's negative 16 divided by 2? Negative 8. And then negative 15. Anybody confused on that step? Yeah. You keep fraction. What happens if what? Still take it out. Still take it out. All right. Rule number 2. I'm going to have you do this at first. If you start to get the hang of it and you see it, you'll see I'm fixing to do a little bit of double work. Once you get the hang of it, you don't have to do this step if you can see it without doing it. I'm going to tell you for right now, make your equation equal 0 unless you can see that what you move over there is not going to make it square dance anyway. In other words, in this one, if I make it equal 0 by adding 15, I'm going to have to move that one back over anyway, right? Because 15 is not even a perfect square. But I want you to see how this is working with everything on one side and then moving it. That's why I want to go ahead and move it right now. Okay? All right. We don't have a leading coefficient. Everything's together on the same side. Those are my first 2 checks, right? Now what I want to do, if I have a good C, right? In other words, does it square dance? So if my C is happy and good, bad, yeah. If I have a good C, I can stop here. I can just go ahead and factor and solve from here and stop. Chances are, if you're completing the square, you're going to be in this scenario right here, which is a bad C, okay? Bad C, I'm going to move and find the good C that should be there, okay? So I had this x squared minus 8x. I'm going to take that 15 back over, but remember whenever I do, I got to do it to both sides. I always draw blanks in here because it helps me remember whenever I stop to do a little extra work. It helps me remember that, hey, you got to do something to both sides. You got a hole in your equation on both sides, right? Got to plug the hole, fill that spot. So here, what is my good C? 16. Remember, your good C is b over 2 squared, 8 over 2 squared, which we know is 16. I'm going to put it here, and I'm going to put it here. The only thing left to do is factor and solve. Yeah, that's it. So how do you factor? Factor the left side there. X minus equals. So now I'm going to do the square root whenever I solve. What's the square root of 1? Plus or minus 1. And now what? Add 4. Tell me what you think about completing the square. Easy? Okay, so you're going to start encountering radicals whenever you do this, because what's going to happen is, like, over here you may have a fraction, or you may have some, and you'll have to apply all those radical rules. Let's try one together. Start to finish. I'm going to do one together, then I'm going to give you one to try by yourself, and we'll work through it together. So let's do this one together first. X squared plus 16x minus 21 equals negative 5. Can't square dance with a negative. All right, so do I have a leading coefficient? No, so I don't have to worry about that. Most of the time, you don't have to worry. Probably 75% of the time, you don't have to worry about it. But be in the habit of looking to see if you need to worry about it. right, now do I have a good C or a bad C? Does it dance or no? No, it's not dancing, right? Because, oh, yeah, let's move over to 5. I did tell y'all to do that first. Let's move over here. If I add, what's negative 21 plus 5? Does it square dance now? Because 16 is a perfect square. And it might square dance for you whenever you do this. It's a negative, so I'm still bad, right? Now, if you don't show these steps in the same order that I do, that is okay. Some of you see that. Some of you would rather go ahead and move that 21 over to start with. Some of you, whatever, however you see that, I'm not going to be picky about that. Just make sure you show me what you're doing. I need to see your work. All right. So I'm going to move it because it's bad. So I moved it back. Now I'm moving it back over, but that's okay. X squared plus 16x. I'm going to have a blank here because I'm going to add in what makes it dance. And I'm going to put the blank over here too because it's got to dance on both sides. It's got to be even, right? All right, so your good C. What goes in the blank for the good C? 64. Half of 16 is 8, and 8 times 8 is 16. That's exactly right. Factor the left side. Yep, equals 80. Leah, you're going to be really excited to see all these radical properties we're fixing to do with this one. Yep. When I do square root, I got to split it up 16 and 5, right? So now I have x plus 8, bless you, equals 4 square root 5. I'm going to do the plus or minus in front of here. The nice thing when you get a radical like this is whenever I get x by itself moving this 8 over, I don't have to combine or show my two different. I can leave it just like that. That's an exact answer that is more acceptable than a decimal answer or anything else. Otherwise, you have to round and it would be exact. No, you don't. You don't. Some of you will start to see it quicker than others. But in pre-cal, we don't ever do that. We go straight into vertex form and do what, but in here, whenever we're just starting, until you see it. Once you start seeing it, that's fine. You can jump straight there. That's fine. Yeah. No, if you can see it without, yeah, no. This is one for you to try. I'm very surprised. I'm okay. Sometimes I do that. Maybe I anticipate it because it's so hard, and maybe I do a better job explaining it. I don't know. But... All right, tell me what you did first. Divided the whole thing by 4. I'd probably go ahead and take care of that too. It's easy enough to go ahead and do that. So I get x squared plus 4 goes into 76 how many times? 19 equals 4x. Then you made it equal 0. Okay. I'm going to move this one over, and when I do, I'm going to move it over to the middle because I need it to be in standard form for me, right? So x squared minus 4x plus 19 equals 0. Is anybody confused? Did everybody get to this step? Yay! I got you. Yeah, make sure it's in standard form. You might want to make a note of that. I didn't think about putting that in your notes. Okay, the 19's bad. I don't even have to check any further than seeing that it's not a perfect square. It's never going to dance for me, right? So I'm going to move it over, and when I do, I'm going to leave some blanks here for the good C that is going to make this equation dance. Four. Your good C is 4. I'm going to do half of 4 squared, and I get 4. That's going here and here. Everybody okay? All right. That's fine. When you square it, it's going to be positive anyway. All right, so the factor on the left looks this way. X minus 2 squared equals, what's negative 19 plus 4? There you go. How do I finish solving that now? square root. Uh-oh. Houston, we have a problem. Wait, look at y'all go. X minus 2. I'm going to go ahead and put the plus or minus in front, and I am going to throw the I. And Cody says 15 cannot be broken down any further, right? So just throw that 2 over there on the other side. I can't combine it with what's there because one's got a radical and one doesn't. So I am A-okay to leave just like that, and I'm done. How do y'all feel?
All right.
Yay! All right, I'm going to set you loose then. This is Wednesday, so we get out late, and I have you